You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch.
What up, Mitch?
Orderly Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Okay.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
What up, Mitch? Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
What up, Mitch?
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch!
Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Mitch.
On tonight's episode of Hey Mitch, I have a game designer. That's right. A whole new platform here. We're talking board games, and I have Reed Mascola on. He is going to talk about his Kickstarter campaign for Vigilante for Paranoia Rising Games. Hi, Reed.
Hi, great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. It's great. Like I said, I have yet to have a board game designer on, so this is exciting. Why board games?
Well, I've always been into board games. So actually, growing up, I always used to play board games and got into trading card games for a bit, then went back to board games. I just like, I kind of like the social, I guess what you used to get, kind of the social aspect of that.
So I guess before we go any further, am I wrong? Is it considered more a card game than it is a board game?
So it's very much a board game, but definitely card based. So there is a physical board as well as lots of cards, but the cards are really what make the game dynamic.
So how would you explain Vigilante? Like, to me, when I went to look at your Kickstarter, I watched the video. I was like, this looks awesome. I can't wait to talk about it. But how would you describe the game?
So it's it's semi-cooperative, meaning that you may have different teams. There is a small chance in one of the scenarios for it to be fully cooperative, but for the most part, it's semi-cooperative, secret missions, and really. What I wanted to emphasize in this was building a team of heroes and creating synergy between those heroes and having that change from game to game because of a wide selection of heroes and different abilities that kind of play into each other.
And how is it that you went about like coming up with this idea?
So definitely got some inspiration from other board games that I've played. I haven't seen a good kind of superhero board game out there that really played into that team concept. So I wanted to create that. But what I have seen, there's a game called Dead of Winter, which is basically a zombie survival game. And that actually you do a great job of building a team of survivors. So I think that was definitely one of the biggest kind of board game inspirations for Vigilante.
So how do the different powers come into effect?
So you've got some heroes that are going to be preventing damage. Some of them that are going to be drawing you cards. Some of them, one of the heroes, for instance, is going to basically move around on your player mat to try and avoid damage. So they've all got different kind of, you've got, for instance, some different villain factions. And there are some heroes that will automatically beat certain factions without taking damage. So it's an interesting game because you're kind of trying to manage your resources. You're trying to make sure your heroes are kept kind of healthy, and you're fighting villains kind of through kind of along the way. And villains are always going to damage your heroes. So you're always playing that kind of balance of, should I attack a villain or should I try and get some first aid kits to heal up my heroes?
So are you always playing a hero, or do you play a villain every once in a while?
Yes. Well, the characters that you're recruiting are all heroes.
Okay.
But you as a player, you're kind of the mastermind, and you could be good, neutral, or evil.
Ah.
So you could so everyone's got a secret mission. Good players, they're trying to get villains in jail. Evil players are trying to basically make the good players lose by either forcing them to fight harder villains or recruiting mercenaries to like go and deal damage to their heroes or free villains from their jail. So there's different dynamics, and then neutral is just chaotic. They're out for themselves. They can win with anybody, but all they really care about is completing their own mission.
Okay. So, I mean, what's the ultimate goal if you're playing against multiple people, or is it against multiple people, or are you playing all together against a common goal?
Yeah, so in this game, you're actually really against the players.
Okay.
So there's a couple different scenarios. So the scenario kind of determines what how many of each kind of role are going to be in the game. So there's brought to justice, for instance, is the basic scenario that comes with the game. And if you've got 4 players, you're going to have 2 good players, 1 neutral, and 1 evil. But nobody knows who those are. So the good players are going to be working together. But as a good player, you've got to try and figure out through the game who might be on your team so that you can help them out. And you have a combined goal. So if you're a good player, you need 7 villains in your jail for each good player in the game. So let's say if we were the good players in the game, I would need to figure out, first of all, who you are, and we would have to have a combined total of 14 villains in our jail to win.
Okay.
And the evil players trying to thwart our plans.
So you got some great mechanics going on here. Different ways of playing the game are going on. So
For sure.
How long did it take to basically hash all this out, like from conception to having a product in your hand?
So this one's been a long one because I've been working on this one for about 5 years now. But the last year, I would say, wasn't a lot of mechanic development because there wasn't really a lot of chance to play it. Although I did just get it up on Tabletop Simulator kind of in, I think, December maybe. So I could finally play it again. But because it is a minimum 3 to 5 player game, and because in Toronto we've been locked down this entire time, it's been tough to play board games.
True. Yeah. I hope the simulator has helped that out, though.
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of plays in on that, and even added a lot of cool things in the last few weeks that even just backers have suggested.
That's
spice
cool.
It up a bit.
So, does it play any different in a simulator than it does if you had it in the physical? Like, I mean, not so much being able to touch it, but just in the gameplay itself.
Yeah, I think the positive of playing it in person is that you can read kind of other people's expressions. So there's that social deduction element that you don't really get online. But the benefit of online is we've scripted it so that basically all you need to do is press one button and setup is just automated. So it cuts you down kind of some time there. Now
the trailer you have up on the Kickstarter, talks about a whole world, and everybody having powers and stuff like that. How much time did you put into developing that story? Just the background story of the world and how it all plays out.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Actually, the story's kind of been building in my head for like maybe a decade.
Ooh.
And it doesn't. I mean. Definitely you can feel the theme of Vigilante when you play it, but the next game I'm working on is Vigilante Story Mode, which is a cooperative version of this game with the same base mechanics, but it's chapter based. So that one is actually going to follow you through the story.
Wow.
And each chapter is going to have kind of an intro that you read to kind of immerse yourself a bit more.
So that will get you to build up, so to speak? Is it more like, origin to modern day? I love that. That's
exactly
interesting.
Yeah, you start. You're going to start as the agency, so you're going to just be some kind of agency troopers building up a team before everyone got powers, and then that takes you through kind of when the villains got powers. Once kind of that formula leaked through to regular people, and regular people became heroes. So it kind of follows you through all the way. Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, I mean, were you have you been working in this type of industry before, or is it just you just woke up and was like, I need to make myself a game?
Yeah, more the latter, I would say. Yeah. I'm in the automotive industry for my career, and this is just something that I've been doing on the side. Is really good, fun, creative challenge that, yeah, it's been good.
So I want to know about that then too. What was the biggest surprise obstacle that came about when you were trying to get this made?
Well, definitely, a lot of it was kind of in starting up my own business, right? So incorporating and figuring all that out, which I'm sure, I mean, probably a lot of your listeners have gone through, but it's just doing this. You have to learn about everything. You have to learn about legal. You have to learn about taxes. You have to learn about, logistics. Well, logistics is a given, and that you kind of figure, but marketing is a tough one for me.
Well, is it your video really sold it for me? So I assume was that something you made? Did you farm that out to someone?
Yeah, so it's actually so I found a video editor to do that, and basically I built a storyboard, and he kind of just took it from there. I made sure that I had a lot of good kind of panoramic art that was layered that could be used for the purpose of videos, and yeah, he's just really done a good job with it.
Yeah, no, I would say that you're doing a crack up job at the marketing at the moment. Obviously, you're funded. You're you know, over 100% funded at this time of this recording. Now, what happens next with the Kickstarter campaign at this point?
Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm still hoping, because we just funded on Friday. I'm still hoping we can unlock a couple of stretch goals. So we've got another 3.5 days left, and usually the last 48 hours there's a big push. So if we can get up to kind of 12 or 14,000 Canadian, which is less than the US, then we'll be in good shape. We'll get a few stretch goals. I've been adding content to the game anyways, because I ran a few contests where people got to be heroes and villains in the game. So either way, there's tons of content in this game.
So what is the importance of stretch goals?
So stretch goals, I mean, definitely part of it is when you look at production costs. If you order at certain quantities, your costs are going to go down. So if I order 500 games and then I order 1,000, I mean, the difference between the two is quite significant. So if I could get to 1,000 copies, meaning if let's say I got 500 or 600 backers, then I could throw in enhanced kind of more expensive components to just kind of make up for that price gap between the 500 and the 1,000. So definitely, I think that's why stretch goals are a thing. Also, it's to build excitement through the campaign, because you want to be constantly kind of unlocking things through the campaign. And I think that's something easier when you set a lower goal at the beginning, because you can be fully funded, and then you've got stretch goals to kind of carry you through all your updates and make the game, or keep the game exciting for your backers. So obviously, most of my campaign, we've been trying to get funded, and we just did. So stretch goals haven't really carried us anywhere. So that's where I've really kind of stepped in and I've said, we're gonna do stuff anyways, get more content for the game.
And what kind of incentives did you have for your backers?
So for stretch goals, or
your original incentives and now stretch goals, yes.
So first of all, we did 2 contests leading up to the game. So we've got basically 3 people that have selected as heroes in the game, and then have 2 people that are villains in the game. I also did at Decepticon, which is it's a convention that went digital because of the pandemic. They do a lot of werewolf or ultimate werewolf and social deduction type games.
Okay.
So I did a contest there as well. So we got a starter hero out of that. And then part of this was just through talking to backers, just getting some ideas. And I've got a brand new scenario that if you're familiar with card drafting, then basically, we've got a scenario where you draft your heroes at the beginning. So you start with a full team. And that was one of the backer suggestions.
Okay. What are some of the feedback that you've been getting from your backers and your test players?
Yeah, I think one thing that I got from two of the reviewers was that they originally we only had 2 different good rolls and 2 different evil rolls and 7 neutral rolls. So all the neutral rolls were unique and different. I guess that's what unique means. For good, there were 4 guardians, which was the basic role that needed a combined total of 7 villains for each good player in the game. And there was the basic evil role, the assassin, who just needed the good players to lose. The feedback I got from the reviewers is that they would have liked to see more of the variability from the neutral into the good and the evil. So have more kind of advanced identities with different maybe bonuses and that's actually what I did. So that's another piece of kind of free content that I've added for the backers is 3 new unique good rolls and 3 new unique evil rolls. And just as an example, one of the evil roles is the recruiter. So they get bonuses for recruiting mercenaries.
Wow.
So they'll actually subtract from the good player's jailed villain total for every 2 mercenaries in the discard pile that have been recruited, basically.
So it sounds like you've taken a lot of the feedback and really worked with it. That's amazing.
For sure, yeah. That's how the game gets better.
It's true. It's true. What was it that made you feel the best in feedback that you got?
I think the coolest thing is that I sent my game out to so many reviewers, and this is actually a relaunch. So I had a much less impressive looking campaign a year ago.
Okay.
But then I think I had about 7 or 8 different content creators, and I got, I want to say about this time, maybe 9 or 10 different, maybe even more content creators to kind of cover my game. And a couple of them were paid, so they would do paid previews or they would do paid playthroughs. But most of the ones that I got were completely unbiased. I didn't they're unpaid reviewers, so they will tell you if a game is bad, which I really appreciate, even as a customer. I mean, I've got a huge board game collection myself, and I do. I want to be able to trust these reviews when I'm reading them, and it was really kind of humbling, and it felt really good to kind of get feedback from each of these reviewers one by one, and they all loved it, and a number of them are backers. So I mean, it's really gone great. It builds my confidence that it's a quality product, even though I know it's a quality product. And again, to what you mentioned, that's listening to feedback, listening to playtester feedback, making sure that everything is balanced, fun to play. And yeah, I mean, 5 years of working on it definitely plays into that too.
So you said you had a campaign going last year or a year ago. Were you able to get it to conventions before the lockdown?
So I got it to some local conventions, and actually what I was planning on doing, so I completely redid all the graphic design in the game since the last campaign. And I was planning on going to Origins, Gen Con, and Decepticon in person.
Right.
And I could not get out to them. so it did not happen. It's definitely tougher to market your game. And I find you can kind of go 2 routes with Kickstarter with board games. So you can go for the flash, where you've got like 100 miniatures and people are going to back it because the miniatures look cool. Or you can go kind of the route of where if it's a good game, the only way you're going to get backers generally, or a large number of backers, is a people player game. And that's really the value of conventions. That's the value of Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia or any of those platforms. I would say like a good portion of my backers have played the game.
Okay. So that's impressive. Now, going back to the beginning, like how did you first get it, like start to develop it? Like how did you get friends together to play it, to start out with whatever it was that you had in your head, or did you just go straight to
for sure.
other people?
Yeah, I definitely started with friends. Friends, even like occasionally family. I try to convince my family to play, even though they're not big gamers. But yeah, mostly friends. I would say we had our kind of our weekly kind of board game meetups. So I would show up there with my game. I actually bought art fairly early into it because I think it's a lot of these prototypes that if you've seen them, they look pretty rough at the beginning. So unless you're going to like a game designer meetup, which I mean, I've gone to a lot of those too, and those are great. It's hard to get regular kind of non-game designers to play your game if it doesn't look the part. So the art kind of did that. I found getting the art, getting a proper prototype printed off. I used Game Crafter, which is great, and they basically just print everything off. It looks like a finished game, minus the fact that it's still kind of a prototype, and maybe the card art and card design doesn't look that great at that point.
So it's not just cut up notebook paper with words on it, is what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like cards with linen finish and like a proper game board, and your viewers can't see that, but this is a prototype. It's just basically it looks like a finished game minus an insert.
So is that the first one? Was that the one that you first had made?
So I've had many made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you still have that first one?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. So I've actually held on to all of it because it's kind of funny looking back. And I used to do like silhouettes for art before I had proper art. And there was one point where I had zombies in my game, which didn't make any sense at all. But it was fun. Fun while it lasted. Yeah, it's gone through so many different iterations, but
I mean, I can't fault you for throwing zombies in there. It's zombies.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I actually did that because I found that people were upset when they lost their heroes. So I was like, oh, how can we get the heroes back? Oh, we can make them zombies.
There you go. So did you end up replacing that with something?
So basically, didn't really replace that, but the way we made it work is that once your hero's defeated, it moves off your board into your defeated heroes pile, and then you can just recruit a new hero. But it still costs a lot of resources to do that. So it's still a pretty big blow when you lose a hero.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, true comic book fashion, a superhero is going to get resurrected somewhere. Is there resurrection in there somewhere?
So there is one hero whose ability is that he basically has 2 lives. So the first time he dies, he just comes back to life with full health.
Okay.
But that's about it. I've got one hero that Poltergeist, who can kind of go in and out of the spirit world. So he actually gets bonuses for the more of your heroes are defeated because he can talk to them.
I like that.
Yeah.
How many different heroes did you end up discarding before you stuck with the ones that you have?
So I think I stuck with a lot of the same characters actually that I had originally.
Okay.
But their abilities got tweaked along the way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's a couple that are gone, but
obviously this is superheroes. Are you a big comic book person too?
I am, yeah, definitely.
All right.
Lately, been more movies and TV shows, but I was in a pretty big graphic novel blitz there for about a couple of years.
Who are your characters?
So I think probably more so kind of X-Men.
Okay.
So like Storm, Gambit, even Rogue, Jubilee, just because her power is so bad. I gotta love her. But I mean, I kind of love, like, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think
Yeah.
Falcon's cool. And I love DC. Actually, for DC, I really enjoy a lot of the ones that get smaller parts. So I'm
Okay.
not a huge Superman person. Batman's great, and I think a lot of the movies are great, and there's a lot of great content for Batman. But I still think he's maybe a bit overdone.
Maybe.
I'm kind of maybe. But I love Black Canary. I love Question.
Oh, the
trying to think,
Question. I love that.
Wildcat.
Wildcat, yes.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, I'm a big Wildcat fan. I'm a Hourman fan.
Nice.
Yeah. But I'm also a huge like Green Arrow, Green Lantern fan. Beast from the X-Men is my guy.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place. I just like reading good stories.
Yeah.
Do we see any analogs to these certain characters in the game?
No, I tried to keep it as far away as I could.
Good call.
I think
Good call.
there's probably one hero that is accidentally has some similarities to Psylocke, but was totally not intentional, and yeah, just trying to stay away from the copyright.
Makes a lot of sense. What was the hardest part about designing the characters other than trying to stay away from already IP out there?
Definitely, I think the most challenging, but also kind of the most fun part is trying to make their in-game ability feel like their power. Which is super easy if you've got a hero that heals, because then you just make them heal in the game. But
Yep.
for some of the other ones, it's a little bit more subtle. It's I don't know.
So if your guy that was a recruiter, what was his like in-game ability as opposed to his out-game ability or above-board ability?
So the recruiter is like that's like your identity. So that's basically only your mission, but then your heroes.
Oh, okay.
So you would still recruit kind of your heroes, and then there's mercenaries that show up in the hero market. So there's basically a hero deck, and there's always like a market of 4. And at any point when a hero's recruited or the market's cleared, you could have a mercenary pop up, and they usually just like stab and run or something.
So what is the average game length time?
So, and we just actually played a game earlier today, and it was an hour and a half. So an hour and a half is generally what I see. First game might go to like 2 hours, just kind of getting accustomed to the cards and everything. But usually by the second game, an hour and a half or even less sometimes.
That's definitely a good game night with friends, kind of around the table. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you brought it up earlier. You said you had a whole bunch of board games, and I can see it because I see the video. But how many are we talking about on that wall back there?
It's probably about like I don't know. I'd probably say like 150, 200. So I know people with maybe I'm underestimating. I don't know. I have more that you can't even see. So,
I'm saying you're definitely underestimating.
Yeah. But I mean, I know people that have thousands. So yeah.
What? I mean, do you have a preferred genre? Do you? Because me personally, like I like Clue or Trivial Pursuit.
Yep.
My fiance would say like Werewolf. What was it? One Night Werewolf?
One Night Werewolf.
Yeah.
One Night. Yeah.
So what's yours?
So I think Social Deduction is my favorite. So that includes things like Werewolf, also Avalon. Trying to think, Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, which actually you might like because that's also kind of like solving a mystery.
Okay.
but it's got the social deduction layer. So one person's actually the killer,
I love that.
and everyone has clues in front of them that kind of you have to try and figure out who the killer is, what the murder weapon was, and what the piece of evidence was.
Okay. I'm
And
in.
there's like a silent ghost that gives, or a forensic investigator or something that gives clues, but isn't allowed to talk. So they know who it is and what the weapon is and what the evidence is, but they have to put a pawn on like one of 6 clues, and they do that a couple of times. So it's just a discussion, an open discussion of like, oh well, if the death was at a hospital, maybe it was the syringe, like things like that. So
And that was Murder in Hong Kong?
yeah, it's called Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for that.
And if you like Clue, Mysterium's another great one.
Okay,
I'm not sure if you played that.
that's the one where it's like it's a old mansion and you get a yep, yeah, we have played that one. I did enjoy
Cool.
that a lot. Yeah.
Awesome.
So what's the game that took you the longest? Because like there's the old meme of Monopoly takes days or whatever, and everybody ends up angry anyway. So what's your game that took you the longest?
Well, it's tricky because I think games like Monopoly and Risk can go on forever, but most modern board games have kind of a finite time to them. But I played Twilight Imperium 4 a number of times, and I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's like a sci-fi. It's like they call it 4X, which is I think explore, expand, exterminate. It stands for something like that, but it's like a space civilization game where you settle on planets, you build ships, you research technologies, and that game typically, I think the average length is probably like 7 hours.
Yikes! All right.
So you gotta plan meals around it, but it's so good, and it flies by. Like you think 7 hour game, you're like, oh no, but when you play it, it's fun.
Oh yeah, if you're having a great time, it's gonna fly. I get that. I get that a lot. What about other things outside of games? What is it that you love to geek out about?
I mean, certain video games. I love playing Civilization. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Switch. I've always played all those older ones, X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance. So I'm not a big like shooter fan, so I feel like there's very few games out for me these days. But and I don't do the 8-bit or the 16-bit. I can't. I know I'm probably going to get some hate for that. But.
No, I don't think you will. I understand it. Like, well, I mean, I haven't really got to play any video games in a very long time either. So, but isn't that new Avengers game? Isn't that something like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance with the whole?
So I got it. It's kind of like Marvel Destiny. If you've ever played Destiny.
Mm-mm.
No, it's like you've got like a fire team, and there's like item leveling up, and it's more so about the items I find than the powers.
Oh, okay.
I actually, I mean, I personally, I bought it, and I played quite a bit of it. I don't enjoy the game, but my incentive to play the game is to watch like the little cutscenes because the story's good.
See, and I found myself doing the exact same thing for like the Uncharted games. I never played the games. I just watched the cutscenes on YouTube. Like I was like, oh, okay, cool, a story. I like that.
It's a cool story.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand that that Vigilante is already in the simulator, but like, could you see it evolving into a video game?
I think so. I mean, I think there's a few places that would probably have to go first. I think it would probably have to go to kind of comic form before it goes anywhere.
Okay.
Because I think that's where a lot of good, a lot of video games derive from comics or from movies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think you'd probably have to start there, and especially being me, and I mean, I'm the only person. So I founded Paranoia Rising Games, but I'm the only person currently. So video game might be too ambitious for me, especially when you're competing with a lot of big budget publishers.
So then do you already have ideas for a comic book?
So I've got the story. So,
Okay. Yeah, you do.
I've got that in big parts, but I still think my focus is really going to be on board games. Because I've got story mode, which is coming after this, and I've got even another kind of big party social deduction game that I've been working with a friend on. So I've got a couple of games lined up. So I'm not sure if it will go to comic anytime soon, but it's in the back of my head. So who knows?
It's there. It's in the world. I get that. So when you're having to plan out the game, you're in the planning stages and stuff like that. What does that look like for you in your environment? Like, is that you locking yourself away? Is that having, music playing? Is that candles burning? Like, what is it for you to get in that mindset?
Yeah, I think definitely having time to yourself is really what initiated, I think, the initial idea for me, and really got me working on it, because you've got to find motivation to not only come up with mechanics and write down a general kind of general rules for the game, but also you need to I don't know, especially for a card game like this, you need to come up with like a ton of cards before you can even test it. So I remember, I think for this game, I used kind of the Christmas break, and I didn't really plan on going away. And I basically just worked on game design, and I actually had my best friend would come over and like help me with game design ideas. And it's just having time. And knowing that you don't have any commitments coming up for a couple days is nice.
So was that the first step? Was that coming up with the rules? Was that pretty crucial?
Yeah, definitely. I think you just need to bullet point it initially. Talk about kind of what you want the win conditions to be. Talk about what a turn looks like, what a round looks like, and then from there, I mean, honestly, writing up the rules is the easy part. It's just really coming up with cards and figuring out what components you're going to use to get this done. And definitely having a good understanding of what games are out there, and coming up with something that's unique versus something that's already been done 1,000 times, can be tricky too. Yeah.
So you said you knew that you had to have a lot of cards made before you could even start. Did you find that number somewhere online or in research, or did you just picked a number and said this is how many I need to have before we can even start?
Yeah. I just winged it. I just I opened up, and it's funny. I used to use Word to do these, and I've gone with better tools since then, but I would just create 9 cards on one word page. I would create a template, and then basically just different card abilities, and I would just wing it. I would say, okay, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with 50 cards in the city deck. I'm going to create 20 heroes and just see how it goes. And then print them off and cut them out manually, and that's all fun.
How many trial and errors did you have on that one?
Oh, so many.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's the beauty of it. If you can get it to a point where you even just play it yourself before you even get people involved, because you don't want to scare them away from playing the real game.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Then just, again, use that time, test it yourself, tweak, test it yourself, tweak. And then once you're actually having fun with your own game, that's when you bring it to other people and start getting their thoughts.
And what kind of resources are there out there for someone that wants to make their own game?
There's so many. There's I think the Stonemeyer blog. Jamie Stegmaier, I think, runs like he's got a blog specifically for game designers. Talks about crowdfunding and everything. There's I think a resource called so there's a game designer. Unfortunately passed, but James Math, who had an amazing resource for board game designers. There's so much out there. Board Game Geek is like, that's kind of the IMDb of the board game world, I guess. And Rotten Tomatoes now, I'm not even sure which one's more popular, but
well, I still use IMDb, so
yeah, me too. So there's some good resources out there, and the cool thing is I find board game designers in general are very helpful, and it's kind of like you play my game, I'll play your game. So it's good. It's easy to get playtesters just through other board game designers, and then just get thoughts and I mean they're willing to hand over like who they use for manufacturing, who they use for logistics. Here's some contacts. Like people are really forthcoming with information, which is great.
Is there a standard in who to use for certain things? Like, is there a preferred one?
Not necessarily. It really, I think for instance, for manufacturers, you're going to have the bigger companies, which are only going to do pretty large minimum order quantities. Right. So as a smaller publisher, you're not going to use them at all. And then you've got basically the smaller companies, some smaller companies that have already done reputable games, and that's kind of where I fit in. So those are the manufacturers that I look for.
Okay.
As a small publisher, yeah.
And in talking about the community, like obviously you've seen the game designer community, you said that a lot of them are there to be helpful and stuff like that. Like, how easy did you find it to integrate yourself?
It's pretty easy actually, and there's even, I mean, this all started before the pandemic, like way before the pandemic. There's a number of board game design conventions, and it's a great way to kind of meet people, make friends, and so it's, I mean, people are generally pretty welcoming, I found.
Has the pandemic like made the community larger or smaller, or more people are making games or less people are making games?
I think there's always like a ton of people making games. I mean, if you look at the board game community, so many of them are creators. So there's constantly and even if you look on Kickstarter, you'll just see constant board games coming out. But I think it's probably, I don't think it's really grown or shrank. I think it's kind of the same. It's just moved more online.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Do you obviously don't need to know, but is there a statistic on like how many games that get started and then move forward into being published or being a success even?
There is. I haven't seen it in a while. So
That's fine.
I don't remember, but
that's fine.
It's quite a lot. I think there's, I wish I could pull it up now, but there's a really good number on how many active board game projects there are at a given time, and it's astounding. You would not think there could be that many. Okay,
so it's work. You put work into it to make success. That's and it sounds like that's what you're doing. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Why Paranoia Rising? What's the story behind that name?
So that goes into social deduction.
Okay.
So what I want to do, because there's games like Ultimate Werewolf, like Avalon, where they're pure social deduction games, and they've done a really good job of. I mean, they're like, for me, they're perfect games. Like they don't really need competition because they're fun. And I don't think they can really be optimized that much. But social deduction as a mechanic hasn't really made its way into a lot of board games, into a lot of other styles of board games. So what I want to do is basically take all sorts of different types of strategy games and kind of inject social deduction and do something completely different. So that's kind of that was the idea behind Paranoia Rising Games, and knowing this was going to be my first game, and this has social deduction in it, it made sense. Now looking and seeing that my second game is going to be fully cooperative, I'm not so sure it made sense, but my third game will probably be social deduction, so we'll get back to it.
Hey, you know what? All on your speed. So there you go.
Yeah.
What is either the best piece of advice that you've been given, or a piece of advice you'd want to give to someone that want to make their own game?
So from what I've seen, and advice that I gave out of my last campaign is, unless you're a professional graphic designer, hire a professional graphic designer. Don't do it yourself. Because it really affects the look of the game, how easy it is to understand. Like for instance, if I've seen a lot of different kind of independent game designer projects, and definitely it's clear which ones haven't used a graphic designer. And if it's a prototype, that's fine. But not only is it going to impact the look of your game, but it's going to impact people's experience on your game, because if you've got really hard to understand icons and things are in weird places on cards and on components, then it's not going to be a good game.
Okay. So people can still get in there on the stretch goals and help you meet some of the larger orders, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, even just just to jump in and get a copy of the game. This is the time to do it. I'm a small publisher, so I'm definitely not going to be pumping out regular manufacturing orders for this. So it is somewhat limited to what I order this time. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to wait a while until I go back into story mode, in which case I'll probably do a reprint at that point.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Here's the Hey Mitch question. And you know what? You have a board game that's all about superpowers. So if you could have one useless superpower and it has to be completely useless, what would it be?
Oh, this is such a good question, but what the first thing I think of was that episode of the X-Men where they were talking about unfortunate powers that people had, and there was one guy that turned into a garbage can and somebody threw a piece of trash at him. I think that's my favorite useless power for other people to have. I
don't really want to have garbage thrown on you.
No, not so much. I don't know. I kind of like. I think kind of talking to animals would be, or like understanding what animals have to say would be kind of cool. But that's also kind of useful. So maybe, I don't know, maybe understanding that really animals don't have anything useful to say would be kind of a funny thing.
I love it. You can talk to animals, but really animals just have like chit chat. They're like, how's the weather? Exactly. That's it. They don't do anything really more than that. Yeah. That's perfect. Reed, once again, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show and talking about your board game. It sounds super exciting. More people should go check it out at on the Kickstarter. And then after that, where are the social medias that they can find you?
So I've got a Facebook group called Vigilante Heroes and Mercenaries. You can also find me on Instagram at Paranoia Rising. Twitter is at Paranoia Rises.
Someone already take Paranoia Rising on Twitter?
Already took it. Yeah.
I hate that.
And that's where you can find me. And paranoiarising.com is the website.
Paranoiarising.com. If you want to talk to me, I'm on Twitter. I'm at Mitchipedia GEM. GEM stands for Geek Elite Media. The rest of Geek Elite Media is at Geek Elite Media on Twitter, at Geek Elite Media on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Geek Elite Media is our Facebook page. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on our website, geekelitemedia.com. But until next time, this is Hey Mitch on the Geek Elite Media Network saying always remember to
Geek out.
Geek out.
This concludes our broadcast.